pricing. So I was actually, if I had spoken first, I would have talked about pricing in terms of selling less and getting more bang for your buck, getting more dollar value for each of those produce items, as opposed to trying to move a lot and bring it down. And I think part of that is because 100% of my sales are direct to the final eater, and a lot of your sales are to a middle person, a retailer. So you do the wholesale route. And I just haven't figured out how to do wholesale. I don't think I really want to do wholesale. I like to be able to tell our story to people eating our food and have that connection. It's very important to me. So our CSA boxes, we've put a price on it that we feel helps us to cover all the background management for that box, which is a lot. My wife Elizabeth spends about 10 hours a week doing all the email management and billing and tracking of all that, which is significant. And then all the extra labor we bring on for the harvest day and the packing and stuff like that. So for our CSA boxes, we charge $26 per box. It's probably one of the top 2 or 3 most expensive in Sonoma County. I think Laguna Farms is still at $19 or $18. They've been there for 10 years, 15 years, as long as they've been around. So the prices vary. We do a lot more food in our box. We price it according to both looking at what national averages are for CSA boxes and how that works, looking at Whole Foods organic prices, looking at Safeway organic prices, and then looking at what we actually put in the box. And so the national survey shows that typically small scale CSAs like ours, you get about 40% more food for the money you spend on that box than you would get at your local retailer. So we aim for that 40%, meaning if the box costs $26, we'd like to make sure that there's about $30 to $35 of food in that box for you. So that if you take your $26 to Safeway Organic section, you would get less than you get in that box. Which means we don't get full retail value, but we also don't get wholesale. We get somewhere in between. It's win-win. You get more for your money, and we get better than wholesale, and it's all pre-sold for us year-round, which is great. So we look at that as a win-win. Sometimes things fluctuate. You know, a low box in the season, February or April, might be a $22 value or $24 value of food in that box. And then this past couple of weeks, we've been giving out about $45 to $48, $50 of food in the box for $26. And I don't know if you can eat it all or not, but I hope you can. Got 2 members here. So pricing's interesting. And then farmers markets, you know, you can, all farmers keep discussing the prices before and after the market. And you're always turning your wheels in your head trying to figure it out. And it's sort of this endless task because as soon as you think you've got it figured out, everything changes. And so you're set on this one price thing for a while, and you say, well, I tried to raise the price 50 cents per bunch, and I didn't sell any that night. So I'm not doing that again. And the next year, you raise your price 50 cents a bunch, and suddenly you're selling out, and so you raise it another 50 cents, and you're selling out again. It's like, huh, sometimes if I make it more expensive, people really want it because it must seem really good. Other times I make it more expensive, and if it's the wrong season or something else about it, people say, oh, he's cheaper, I'm gonna go buy from him. So pricing is challenging. And you have to be very fluid with it, very flexible. We have different pricing cards for our different markets. Occidental and Santa Rosa, we can sell things at different prices at. Windsor, we used to sell at Windsor, but we had to drop our prices a lot to move any produce in Windsor, and that just became not worth our while. Santa Rosa, we have to drop the prices a bit compared to Occidental because there are so many farmers selling all the same stuff right now in this season. That July, August, September, October in Santa Rosa, there's just, everybody brings 1,000 pounds of tomatoes. So you're not gonna get $3.50 or $4 a pound. We've been doing $2.50 a pound. And we sell great, we sell really well. Go up to $3 a pound and everyone says, well, they're also $3 a pound or $2.95 a pound. And they say at $2.95, it's a farmer's market, who's working in nickels here? But it's one of those things you really should be fluid and responsive. If you want to change prices through the market, you can do that, and people might even notice it, and they'll try to nail you on it and say, great, I'll give you the old price, but it's cheaper. Yeah, just be fluid, be flexible, be real about it. Let me think. Definitely want to get to Q&A, because that's always the best part. But seasonality. You know, that winter season, like January through April, we cannot possibly meet demand for the food at the farmer's market. The farmer's market in Santa Rosa, for us, in the dead of winter, is phenomenal. You've got half the farmers are on hiatus, or taking vacation, getting ready, they're prepping beds, or prepping fields, and doing all that planning, but they're not selling. because they're just seasonal farming. And the other half of farmers may not have quite as much diversity as we do. We really, because of our CSA, we focus on diversity. And so we can bring so many different things to market in the dead of winter. And that's when we really make a lot of money. We'll do 3 or 4 times the sales in the dead of winter than we do in the summer when we actually have far more food to sell. Like right now, I can bring thousands of dollars of product to market and sell a third of what I sell in February, price-wise. So that's been important to us to realize that one of our strong points, being this cold, low valley bottom, is that we can really grow very good crops in the off-season for most farmers. So finding that niche, what works for you in your area, and how can you make money that other people aren't quite doing it there. So that's been working for us. I want to make sure I'm not missing any important questions at the end of this list. Some of the big upfront capital expenses, oh boy, and the margins for using distributors. Yeah, I didn't do that one. Direct to consumer is good for me. Common big monthly expenses, that's actually kind of an important one because I've had a lot of young starting farmers ask me, what are your big expenses? What do you have to pay for? And it's basically labor, compost, fertilizer, and seeds. And the seeds are, I don't know, I mean, they all kind of, I would just say it's about $5,000 or $7,000 in seed, maybe $3,000 in fertilizer, and $8,000, $10,000 in compost for us. And then we got 2 full-timers and a bunch of part-timers. So we're looking at our labor costs being up around 60 or something like that. 50,000, just to give you some rough numbers, very rough.
Labor?
50 to 60,000 a year, probably more than that.
Okay.
A year. Yeah, these are all. That was all for the year, not per month. I know the question was per month. It's not 8,000 compost per month. It's per year. But sharing the harvest, Robin Van En, and I forget the other woman who wrote it. Sharing the harvest would be the Bible on CSAs, and they give you actual farmers' expense reports that they just took out of their file cabinet and sent off to the publisher of the book. It's right there, and it'll say exactly what they're spending their money on. And that's nice to know ratios. It's nice to know what percentage of my revenue goes to buying compost and buying seed. Because those ratios, to me, are what's very important. If I'm spending 20% of my revenue on compost, obviously there's something not quite right, because I'm not nearly getting my value back out of it. But if I'm only spending 6% of my revenue on compost, that might be appropriate. That might be really good. And we are a very compost-based farm because we are a hand-till farm, or a hand labor farm, not even a till farm. So we do a lot of compost. That's our big expense, even though we make our own, make up 300 cubic yards. There's something else I was going to go with the last question there. Oh, upfront, big capital costs. For those of you who visited us, our barn. Greenhouse, tractor, which is kind of sad because we invested in a beautiful tractor and then we only use it to move compost and turn our compost piles, and that's about it. So all I really need is just a front bucket loader and 2 wheels to move it around. But, it's been just a lot of labor investment. It's that 60, 80-hour week for the first couple of years. That's your big upfront investment. And the more you are present, the more you are walking your field every day and getting your nose in the dirt and working hard, you will know exactly what's going on in your farm. And you'll be able to find out what's working, what's not working, how do I streamline it, how do I make it more efficient, what's going to profit for me, what's not. And if you got beds that are only coming up with 20, 30% germination, don't try to nurse those all the way through. You've got so many weeds, you've got so much wasted compost, you've got so much wasted space, all that water. Don't try to nurse it through. Cut your losses, start over with a brand new crop and get that 90, 100% germination rate going on.